Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. I just learned of a cosmic synchronicity of epic scale that could possibly be one of the greatest of all time. It involves Interstellar Object 3I Atlas, and it significantly deepens the mystery around 3I Atlas because this cosmic event that occurred exactly when we first observed 3I Atlas for the first time is very unusual and significant in its own way, and it speaks to there being a deeper meaning to all of this. So we first picked up Interstellar Object 3I Atlas on July 1st. We determined that it had this trajectory that's not going to have it come back to the solar system, so a hyperbolic trajectory, closely aligned with the ecliptic plane, passing close to Mars, also doing a close flyby of Jupiter in March 2026, a whole bunch of unusual observations and just coincidences, you could say. And when you start to stack coincidences up, you have to pay attention. If you're smart, at least you do. It's sunward facing tail, it's shift from red to green color, it's plasma nature, which the mainstream are not talking about at all, even though there's tons of dynamic electromagnetic and plasma processes occurring with 3I Atlas. It's alignment with solar flare activity going from October 21st through its perihelion October 29th, and also just recently over the past few days. So there's a bunch of unusual oddities with 3I Atlas, which is why so many people have been interested in it, wondering what it is. We've covered all the angles on the channel. Interstellar comet, interstellar object, something other than a comet, right? Technological or alien? If so, what would it do in the solar system? Is it actually affecting the field of consciousness? Maybe it's antimatter, like all the things. We've discussed them on the channel. It was first observed July 1st. One of the things that I do is I look for when things line up in time and whether they have similar characteristics. On July 2nd, less than 24 hours after we first picked up 3I Atlas, there was a record-setting gamma ray burst. So these are the biggest explosions in the sky that we can observe. So gamma rays are the highest vibrational wavelength of light. And the higher the frequency, the more energy is contained within that photon, that particle of light, you could say. So gamma ray bursts are the most energetic events in the universe. We really don't know what they're from. We have different ideas and models like, oh, it's a supernova event or some sort of black hole ripped apart a star, or star collapsed into a black hole, or there was like two neutron stars that like merged together. But at the end of the day, we really don't know what gamma ray bursts are from. We just know that they're extremely energetic and we get hit for about a minute with some really highly vibrational gamma rays from a distinct location in the sky. July 2nd, we had a record-setting gamma ray burst. It lasted for over 24 hours, and there were 3 distinct pulses over 7 hours that were very powerful. So this is the longest ever gamma ray burst observed by margins. Typically they're like seconds to a minute long. There have been a few that have been detected that were a little bit longer than that, like maybe an hour or two. This is the longest duration ever, and it's also the second strongest gamma ray burst. The strongest one was picked up on October 9th of 2022. That's called the BOAT, the biggest of all time. So that's just recently. They call that a 1 in 10,000 year event. GRB250702b, so July 2nd, 2025, that is the second strongest, the second brightest, the longest duration, and it had 3 distinct pulses. 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object observed. Then, less than 24 hours later, we have this celestial explosion coming in from 5 billion light years away that gives us 3 distinct pulses, and the third pulse, the last pulse, was the strongest, and there was a rhythmic beat to those pulses. So it wasn't chaotic. They followed a clear tempo in time. So you start to look at this and see how they have these similarities between them, and they are completely different cosmic events. We don't know where 3I Atlas is from, but we know it's traveling roughly 60 kilometers per second, perihelion a little bit faster. So it can't have been from this galaxy 5 billion light years away. But then at the same time, after traveling for 5 billion years, we get hit by that light from that explosion, which has 3 distinct pulses. And the cherry on top is that it's from nearly the same part in the sky. So 3i Atlas came in from the constellation of Sagittarius, and GRB250702b came in from just above the constellation of Sagittarius, just nearby. This is an incredible cosmic synchronicity, speaking to how there is meaning and pattern that goes far beyond our understanding, because this explosion occurred 5 billion years ago or so. In 3i Atlas, maybe it's that old, we don't know how old it is, but it's passing through our solar system right now. To have that alignment in time with the two of them is extraordinary. And I really don't know what it means. I just know that speaks to some vastly deeper meaning to Interstellar Object 3i Atlas than we currently realize. Now here we have some latest imagery of 3i Atlas. Before we learn more about GRB250702b, we can look at this X-ray imagery provided by ESA, their XMM Newton spacecraft. This was taken December 3rd, about 20 hours of observations, and we're seeing it in X-ray light. So we can look at comets and interstellar objects in different wavelengths of light. Here we see X-ray. Gamma rays from like gamma ray bursts are one step higher in vibration. And we can image 3i Atlas in X-ray light because it's pumping off all this gas and dust and material. And gas specifically, when it's neutral in space, it will eventually ionize, and that will often release these X-ray photons due to the ionization process. So we also get X-ray light, diffuse soft X-ray light from the interstellar medium. And if that interstellar gas comes into the solar system, like into interstellar gas focus cone, which we pass through the Earth every December, January, we see more diffuse X-ray light just in general, kind of in our nearby ambient environment. 3i Atlas also clearly visible here with X-ray light. We see the more dense part of the coma there, and then we also see the coma extending out further. So while 3i Atlas is reflecting and shining this X-ray light as it travels through our solar system, it also was announced and heralded with its arrival when we first detected it by one of the biggest gamma ray bursts of all time and the longest duration by far. Let's learn more about GRB250702b. And let's just start with the duration of this unique gamma ray burst that is perfectly synchronized with the detection of Interstellar Object 3i Atlas. So I'm going to turn myself off here so you can see what a typical gamma ray burst looks like. Notice that the scale bar on the bottom, the x-axis, is 60 seconds in length. You see that spike there in the first minute. Here is GRB0702b, 8 hours of observations. So an absolutely incredible gamma ray burst in terms of its duration, showing that there is a huge amount of energy released here. Because you're simply just going to get more energy released over time. The energy, the area under the curve, for example, you could calculate that. For a minute, it's going to be something. For 8 hours, it's going to be extraordinary. Here we see those 3 distinct bursts. Notice how this third one is the strongest. And there's a clear periodicity to those 3 bursts as well. So there's this one and then that one. This would be like a 1, 2, 5 beat pattern. They're almost exactly perfectly aligned with this tempo, which I'll explain more at time. But this was a record-setting gamma ray burst, being the longest ever observed and also the second strongest observed. And the strongest one, the boat, back in October of 2022, that was thought to be a 1 in 10,000 year event. And now 3 years later, we get another 1 in 10,000 year event. So we're just being absolutely bombarded with super high energy cosmic radiation and information, consciousness, and more. So let's learn more about where this came from, because not only did it occur at the same time as we discovered 3i Atlas, and it has 3 distinct pulses to it, which is quite abnormal, and 3i Atlas is the 3rd ever interstellar object observed. It also came in from roughly the same position in the sky. So this gamma ray burst is made up of 3 distinct pulses, and at first they actually thought this was 3 distinct gamma ray bursts. So that's why there's GRB250702b, then also a D and an E. And here we see the gamma ray focus maps for those 3. So here is B, and here is D, and here is E. And so you see that they're all from the same location in the sky. And so they realized with time that this is one big event from a single single source. Now there was also a fourth gamma ray burst that occurred during this time frame. That would be GRB250702c, but that came in from this location in the sky. So it's not related to these other three except in time. But in location, it's completely different. In age, all those other parameters, it's quite a bit different. So these are the first three right there, the three big pulses of activity. X-rays were observed for a day before that event. So it's quite odd. Typically these gamma ray detectors, they get triggered when the initial event occurs and then within a minute it's over. Instead, we saw these X-rays starting to come in a day before the final big pulse. And that's of course when we were picking up 3I Atlas. So it's almost like, hey, we found this interstellar object and then the universe is sending us this massive pulse of energy, the second largest ever observed, only behind the boat, the biggest of all time. That is wild. Here we see the location of this compiled and then zoomed in as they focus in with Gemini and James Webb. So we see our initial detections here, those three bursts, again, three of them, 3I Atlas. I just think you can't get around some of these very simple connections between the two of them. And their location in the sky is the same. We see that that was the Milky Way right there in the galactic center. Here we punch in and you see that eventually we're able to locate the source galaxy using Gemini. And we see that right here. And then James Webb, being so much more powerful, especially in infrared, can finally get that to then show up very nicely. And there is GRB250702b, the location of it from that galaxy, which is about 5 billion years old. It's 4.9 billion years plus or minus 0.6 billion years. That is the current estimate for that galaxy. That's way, way, way distant. Now for those light photons, they are reaching Earth effectively with no time having elapsed, because for a light photon, time doesn't exist. So we had that explosion, then all that light that was generated basically showed up exactly when we detected 3I Atlas. Very, very interesting. Let's learn more about some of these unique properties of GRB250702b, because the fact that it's also an oddball is very odd to begin with. And here is the sky map provided by James Webb for this gamma ray burst. Here we see the source galaxy right there and the pinpointed location for that as best as possible based off of the James Webb data, but also a bunch of other telescope observations. So this is not only Fermi with the gamma rays, but also Einstein with the X-rays. And then we have optical light, we have infrared with James Webb. We also have microwave frequencies and radio frequencies. This was a huge explosion across the entire light spectrum. So it wasn't just the most highly vibrational, it was also down to radio waves. And those light emissions actually continue on for longer after the first burst of X-rays and gamma rays. So those can last for days, weeks, months afterwards. There's been ongoing radio observations collected for this unusual gamma ray burst up to this present moment. So here are the exact timestamps for those bursts, and here are the coordinates for this. If you're interested, you can plug this in a Stellarium. And here we have the main anomalies for this gamma ray burst. So GRB250702b is observationally unprecedented in its time scale, again the longest duration, its morphology having that triple burst sequence, and its X-ray onset 1 day prior. So again, there's a high energy detection that predated the final burst by about a day. That was July 1st. So we started getting highly vibrational X-ray radiation coming in from this cosmic explosion event, which we don't know what it is, on July 1st when we first picked up 3I Atlas. And we're like, is this interstellar? Like, what is this? Like, this is very odd, right? We were already getting beamed with high energy at that moment in time. Then, in general, this overall was the second strongest gamma ray burst ever, only behind the boat, which is a huge pulse of cosmic energy. The third burst was the strongest, which is quite unusual, and there was this periodicity to the burst. So the time interval between burst 1 and 2 was 2,825 seconds, and the third burst was 4 times 2,825 seconds plus only 4 seconds later. So you have this clear, exact periodicity to that explosion, showing that there's some reasoning or some purpose, or there's a coherence behind it. There's something unusual. It's not chaotic. There's an order and a structure to it, which is also very odd. That's basically like what Morse code is, right? You have very clear definitions of how long you press and release for. This is almost like a Morse code signal that was sent from a cosmic explosion 5 billion light years away as 3I Atlas is coming in. So it has a clear 1, 2, 5 beat pattern to it. And if we watch this again, this is our typical gamma ray burst, but we're gonna pause it this time when it shows us GRB right here. There is that beat pattern. So 1, 2, and then if you were to put a 3 and a 4 here, that's the 5. So it's a perfect beat pattern to this. And in fact, we even see, if you were to characterize that as the next one, we do see that that's right in line with this pattern as well. So an exceptional gamma ray burst across the board, worthy of its own video and discussion. It's very interesting. And then you combine that with 3I Atlas and how this occurred during its discovery, really is mind expanding. I don't really know what this means, and I kind of think that's the point. It's beyond our current comprehension, but it speaks to there being much bigger processes that are currently in play and that we're just being taken along for the ride. And so to really drive that home, let's look at the location of this gamma ray burst in time with 3I Atlas using Stellarium. So here we have our program Stellarium, which allows us to see the position of the planets, the sun, the moon, the stars across time. And I have this set for July 2nd at 11:21 UTC -5, which corresponds to when we had that third and final strongest burst from GRB250702b. Now let me turn off the ground. I'm going to turn off the atmosphere. So this is just a sky map, okay? And we can search the position of this. So let us go to our search window and we are going to choose right here, position. We want equatorial J2000. And we can put in our right ascension angle for this. We see our cursor shift over, and now we put in our declination. Here we see the location for this gamma ray burst, and we can mark the location right here using that marker. Now we've tracked this position in the sky. This is GRB250702b, okay? Now let's add in 3I Atlas. So we can go to our object here. I've already loaded it in. There's programs, there's like guides online that show you how to load that in. Here we see 3I Atlas at this time. This is July 2nd right here. If you go back to July 1st, we see where it is. And if we go back even further, let's actually do a couple months. We see that it basically hovers in, and it really came in from this location of Sagittarius. Look at how close together these are. They're right on top of each other. So a lot of people talked about the WOW signal of 1977 having came from Sagittarius and how that could be connected to 3I Atlas because of some alien technology that released a signal. And it's interesting to think about, and we discussed it on the channel. But that was 1977 that we picked that up on. This is the second strongest and the longest duration cosmic explosion that we've ever observed coming in at the exact same time that we first picked up 3I Atlas. And it had 3 distinct pulses. This is the third interstellar object. I mean, the list is, all the abnormalities and coincidences is piled up so high now you can go to the moon on it. So there's something clearly here. It's very, very bizarre. I mean, it's beyond bizarre. I really don't know what to think of this. I just know it's very, very odd. And in fact, we have coming up Jupiter and Earth in alignment with Gemini. And then on the other side, Venus and Mars in alignment with the constellation of Sagittarius. So we also have this planetary resonance clicking into effect. Let's quickly check that out. Here we have our application solar system scope, which allows us to see the relative position of the planets and their geometry across time. The only thing not accurate here is the scale. They're obviously not to scale. And today it is 12/12. So happy 12/12. Here we see that we are starting to have this alignment form between Mars, Venus, Mercury, the Sun, Earth, and Jupiter, but it really goes exact in less than a month now. So if I move the Earth like this, watch how they all line up, and there we go. Boom, shakalaka. We have this perfect alignment between the planets from around January 6th to the 9th for the most precise alignment, but obviously it's going to be active for quite some time around that. See that right there? We have this alignment active for basically the first half of January. And you'll notice that Jupiter and Earth there are in alignment with the constellation of Gemini. But on the other side, what's opposite Gemini? It's Sagittarius. Here we have Sagittarius. We see that Mars and Venus are in alignment roughly with the position of where 3i Atlas came in from in the first place. And then we also see our shield constellation there, and that's the position right there of where GRB250702b occurred. So almost a perfect alignment with both of these interstellar forces, and then the planets are participating as well in January. And I think that's absolutely incredible and speaks to there perhaps being some sort of pivotal event that occurs around this time. I don't know how that's going to express, whether it's going to be geologic in nature or societal or whatever, but clearly Interstellar Object 3i Atlas is resonating with us because there's just so much interest in it across the board. So how this is going to express itself is really unknown, but I think it's going to be big in scale, and GRB250702b is clear evidence of that because it is so synchronistic with 3i Atlas. Same number of pulses, 3 as it being the third interstellar object, same location in the sky, same time of day, the X-ray flux, very bizarre across the board. There's something to this. So that is your update today on Interstellar Object 3i Atlas, and I wish I heard about this gamma ray burst back when they first reported on it in the electronic circular on July 2nd, but they didn't release some of these details until now in a more public-facing way, so it just kind of slipped through my nets. Research papers are linked in the video description if you'd like to learn about this more, and I'll keep you up to date on everything that is happening here on Earth energetically, what's happening in our solar system, the cosmos, as we learn about it. So we look at earthquake activity, volcanoes, geomagnetic storming, and also severe weather events, solar activity, space weather, interstellar and cosmic forces, and beyond. So if you like the sound of that, then please subscribe. Again, I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Smash that thumbs up button, help the channel grow. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next video.